Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know I've been kind of MIA for the last couple weeks. I've had a lot going on. I almost died from strep and a lot of other rather exciting things have been happening in the last couple weeks. So I'm finally catching up on my YouTube videos, and I asked you guys over on Instagram for some frequently asked questions, anything that you guys have asked me in messages and or comments and I haven't had a chance to get back to you, or you've always wanted to ask me, stuff like that. And I wrote down a few awesome questions to answer. This is just gonna be a super chill video. I'm basically just gonna read the comments and kind of give you my best answer. And of course, this is my channel, so this is obviously my opinion, and you don't have to do everything the way that I do it, but I'm just gonna give you guys the best answer I can for your questions, so stay tuned. Alright, so I did write down all the questions, and I am going to try to do my best to kind of read off the usernames. Some of them were a little bit challenging, but I'm going to try to read off what you guys asked and then give you my best answer. I only wrote down probably maybe 10 or 12 or so that I'm going to be answering today because I don't want this to be too terribly long. But the first question is from SOS374, and she asked, what do you say to people when they ask you what you do for a living? I actually say I have a fashion resale business online, because if you try to say I go to Goodwill and flip stuff on the internet, people don't think that's a real job. That's always been a struggle for me, especially like when I first started out. A lot of my friends, and not necessarily my friends, but just people who I came in contact with were like, oh, cool, and just assumed that that wasn't a real job and I must not have any skills. But if you guys didn't watch my first intro video, I have a college degree. I worked in corporate marketing for a year before I decided to sell online full time. And I think that I'm a pretty qualified person. I just chose to do this as a career because I love it and it's my favorite thing to do. And I think making money off of stuff that's gonna end up in a landfill is literally the best job I can think of. So I do think I'm perfectly capable of having a different job, but I don't have any desire to do that whenever I can work for myself. So that is definitely what I like to say, just to clear up any confusion. People really don't ask too many weird questions about that. They kind of just assume, oh cool, you have a store online, whatever, and then that's pretty much it. So that's usually the easiest way to explain it for me. Alright, next question is from Jacqueline Renee Rose, and she asked, what is the average time you let your items sit before you decide to price drop or relist? Now, this is a challenging question for me, and I'm sure a lot of other sellers get this question as well. I don't have a set timeline, especially because if you guys follow me on Instagram, you're probably aware of the fact that on Poshmark and eBay, my average sale price is $50. And you don't have to do it that way. If you're buying stuff for super inexpensive at the bins, you're paying per pound or something like that, and you want a quick flip, that's perfectly fine. A ton of people like to do that. But for me personally, I like to shoot for a higher price and a higher profit margin, and so I'm willing to let my items sit. So what I choose to do doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but this is just my way of doing things. I'll let my items pretty much sit for, honestly, up to a year. I'm not really picky. I know that they'll sell eventually. A lot of them just need the right buyer. I'm waiting for somebody to buy something unique or something like that. I do price drop if it's, been a while. I would say like a few months or more. I usually price drop, and then we'll go through, and now with the new offer to likers button, I do send offers like that. I send bundle discounts and try to get the items moving. I don't want them sitting in my house forever, but I'm not super picky about how long something sits with me. I'm willing to wait to get the right price for my items. So that's just what I do. And eventually, if it's just something that was just a really bad buy, or it was just not something I should have bought in the first place, I will take those things to either like a cash on the spot consignment store like Plato's or Clothes Mentor or something like that, or I will just redonate to either Dress for Success, where I obviously love to volunteer, and also I'll just take bags of stuff to Goodwill if it's been too long. I'm getting a lot better about knowing what my customers like to buy though, so it doesn't necessarily happen as much as it used to when I started out. I'm getting a lot more picky. I know that sounds crazy coming from me because I am really picky about inventory anyways, but I'm getting even more picky because I kind of know what will not sell and what will sit forever. So I actually don't mind sitting on my inventory for a little while. All right, our next question is from Maria D. Ellis, 77, and she asked best advice for someone starting to resell on Poshmark. This is something I get in DMs all the time. This is probably one of the most asked questions of, you know, my page in general, is how do I get started? What is your best advice for someone starting out? How can I get started on either Poshmark or eBay? And I would say, honestly, the best advice is to be consistent. And I know that doesn't necessarily work for everyone because you have other things going on. You have a job, you have kids, you're a stay-at-home mom, things like that. But being consistent with your activity on the app, listing, trying to learn new things, buying better inventory, and consistently working is number one. It doesn't matter if you're sharing all day, every day, or you're following people, or whatever, but if you're not listing and you're not selling things and you're not staying consistent with that, you're not going to do well, especially if you're just starting out, because it's so important to be engaged with the app when you're first starting. And I would recommend trying to work on being a Posh ambassador, and there's certain qualifications that you have to meet on that. If you can meet those qualifications, that's probably step number one. And really just getting to know people on the app, selling items, even if you have to just get your closet going, clean out your own closet, and then start sourcing for inventory later. It's a matter of staying consistent, because the people who start out strong and never stop and never give up are the people who are successful now. And I mean, like, I can name a million people I can think of off the top of my head, but you don't have to be like, you know, master's degree educated. You don't have to have a PhD to be good at reselling. I mean, anyone can do it. It's super easy. And, you know, it's just a matter of doing it. Being self-motivated is number one. If you're not self-motivated and you do not want to make money, you are not going to make money. It's not rocket science, but it's also a matter of, do you want money? Are you willing to chase, you know, your quote-unquote dreams? Are you willing to, you know, put in the effort to make the money? Because the money is there. You just have to really be consistent and stay working hard and like really working on what you want to accomplish with your closet. And I think that's the biggest mistake. People think they can put in half, you know, basically part-time effort and make a full-time income, which is just not possible. All right, so our next question is from Lisa Paretic, and she says, what has expanding from Poshmark to eBay taught you, and what are the pros and cons of both? This is a very touchy subject for most people. They have a preference of either Poshmark or eBay. Also, forgive me, I will be drinking coffee in this. But basically, I obviously prefer Poshmark. eBay is my side hustle, which most people think that's weird because it's a bigger platform, but I have a bigger following on Poshmark. I've been doing Poshmark longer, and I prefer the platform over eBay tenfold. I love Poshmark. Poshmark is everything to me. I love, you know, their business model. I love all the people that work there. I think it's a great company. I firmly believe that they're trying to do good in the world, and so I obviously am really biased because it's made me a lot of money. I've been consistently supporting myself on just Poshmark income for a really long time, so of course you guys are going to hear me say how much I love Poshmark all the time. eBay, however, has taught me quite a bit about reselling because I've learned that there's a market for everything. Anything you can find in a thrift store, there's a market for it. And it depends on what you're willing to sell and how much you're willing to make on each item, but really, you can sell anything on eBay. And I think the biggest difference probably for me is that I like selling trendy items. I like fashion. I don't just like clothing. I like fashion. So I am a firm believer that Poshmark does better if you sell trendy items. So anything that is like trend focused, a good brand, things like that. It's more of a fashion app, and that is why I like it so much. And I think that if you stay consistent with the way your closet looks and only list things that you know, really believe in and like, that's really going to help you establish like a brand for yourself. And so I really think that's pretty important. And we also had another question. I'm going to try to find this one really quickly about, let's see. Should resellers engage in social media marketing? This is kind of going off of what I just talked about. So I actually think that resellers should engage in social media, and I think it also has a lot to do with your personal brand on Poshmark. So if you are planning to resell on Poshmark, or you already are and you are not on social media, I highly recommend getting involved in the community because it's a good way to learn things, but also Since I have been on social media and since I've been talking about my Poshmark journey, it has helped my business so much. And as you guys, if you've been following me since the beginning on Deal Queen on Instagram, my account was actually private for a long time because I was super paranoid that it was gonna hurt my business. I was worried that people were gonna like harass me, which I do get harassed quite a bit, but it's kind of for different reasons and it hasn't hurt my sales at all, thank God. It's actually helped me a lot. So if you are not engaged in social media with your Poshmark closet and your eBay store, I would highly recommend getting involved in the reselling community and, you know, make a little like closet boutique Instagram or something that will help you with your sales and kind of drive traffic to your store. And there's obviously ways to drive traffic within the app, but I think that having that social media following really helps with that, and it has done nothing but help my Poshmark closet since I started Deal Queen. So I actually would highly recommend talking about reselling. Don't be ashamed of what you do for a living. Don't be shy about where you get your inventory, which that was my biggest concern at first, is that it was going to hurt me that people thought I was buying stuff at thrift stores. But I think just owning your truth and owning what you actually do and being honest is awesome, and people really like engage with that and believe in that. So I definitely think telling people the honest truth about what you do for a living is really helpful. All right, so I think I'm actually gonna make this our last question because I know this is getting quite long, and I'll make like a part 2 of this so I can answer more of your questions. I just don't want this to be too terribly long because I know you guys probably don't want to sit here and listen to me talk all day. So this last question is from Madison Miller 74, and she asked, what's your response when people try to shame you for buying clothes at thrift stores to resell? So first of all, the clothing industry is one of the most polluting industries in the entire world. I think it's number 2, and there is so much unused clothing in the world that has been hardly worn or never worn at all. It is massively overproduced, and people keep their clothing for half as long as they did 15 years ago, and they own 60% more than they did 15 years ago. So obviously, as you can tell from just those stats alone, there is so much clothing in the world that even if we all were resellers, I guarantee you we would never run out of inventory because there's just so much. I mean, it never ends, to be honest. If you've ever seen the back of a thrift store, it is overflowing. They don't even have anything to do with all of the clothing. It's getting shipped overseas. And people just really aren't keeping their clothing, especially thanks to fast fashion such as H&M, Forever 21 is absolutely killing the earth. And, you know, it's really polluting, you know, our precious resources, to be honest. So I think that it's really silly when people get mad about you reselling, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking an item that is below market value and selling it for market value. That's actually really intelligent. That's what every business does in America and across the world. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking thrift store items and selling them for a profit. That is absolutely cool and totally fine. It's helping the earth. It's helping other people find items that they can't find otherwise. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I feel no shame about it. I tell absolutely everyone I know what I do for a living. And if they don't like it, then obviously it's not someone I need to associate with anyways. So I get that question a lot, and a lot of people feeling uncomfortable and not wanting to tell people what they do. And I think it's super cool that we save stuff from landfills and recycle things and give things a new life, especially beautiful clothing that has barely been worn or still has the tags on it, that definitely has an opportunity to be shipped somewhere else and, you know, enjoyed by someone else. And so I definitely think that reselling is the coolest, and you should not be ashamed. Thanks for tuning in to my first ever frequently asked questions video. I'm sure I'm going to be doing a lot more of these, and I'm actually going to be making a few specific videos over a lot of the questions that were kind of repeated. So I'm going to do Poshmark versus eBay. I'm probably going to do one about how I ship my items, where I source, what I look for when I'm sourcing, kind of more of those types of videos. And I'm also going to be talking about, you know, measurements, how I create a listing, all of that. So I'm going to be making separate content for those to kind of answer those more specific questions. But if you have not already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so you guys can kind of stay in the know and keep up with all my future videos. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys later.